Breaking news, Bill Cosby is a free man.
The bombshell ruling by a Pennsylvania judge sending shockwaves throughout the country and the legal system.
And we are watching potential tropical cyclone 5. And oh, by the way, we still have rain.
Plus, a deep divide over coastal restoration. Coming up, I'll tell you why a project to deal with the Mississippi River and erosion is causing so much controversy.
Right now, you're looking at the first images of a free man. In a completely unexpected turn of events, Bill Cosby has been released from prison.
He just said his heart was racing. He couldn't believe it. He said they was ringing his cell. They was just knocking on the walls, the inmates. And he said, they said, look, you're free. Get up, get up. And he was like, what are these guys talking about? And he was just so excited.
So here's what happened. Earlier today, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court vacated the legendary comedian's conviction for sexual assault.
And this bombshell ruling caused both anger as well as celebrations across the country and Hollywood. Barbara Barr from our sister station WGAL in Pennsylvania reports from the prison where Cosby is no longer an inmate.
83-year-old Bill Cosby walked out of prison a free man. This after a divided Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned his conviction on sexual assault charges and barred him from being retried on those same charges. Cosby arrived at his home outside Philadelphia late in the afternoon. He had served more than 2 years of a 3 to 10-year prison sentence. The majority of judges ruled there was a vast violation of Cosby's due process rights. The majority basing their ruling in large part on a promise former Montgomery County District Attorney Bruce Castor made to Cosby that he would not criminally prosecute the former comedian due to a lack of evidence. In exchange, Cosby would give a deposition at a civil proceeding. This was so the accuser, Andrea Constad, in Castor's words, would get some measure of justice. Prosecutors then used Cosby's words in that deposition against him at the criminal trial, an admission that he gave drugs to women before engaging in sex with them. The court ruled Cosby was denied a fair trial. Of course, Bill Cosby's initial trial ended in a hung jury before he was eventually convicted. In Harrisburg, I'm Barbara Barr reporting.
Barbara, thank you. Cosby's longtime co-star from the hit NBC show, The Cosby Show, Felicia Rashad, is also speaking out. In a tweet, the actress says, finally, a terrible wrong is being righted. A miscarriage of justice is corrected. All right, some local reaction now to this big news story. Joined now by former prosecutor Laura Canizero Rodriguez. You handled high-profile sex crimes right here in the city of New Orleans. First off, your reaction as a prosecutor to this decision involving Bill Cosby.
Well, this is certainly devastating news. It's devastating for the prosecution. It's even more devastating for the victims who, after a long and very difficult trial, cases involving sex crimes are the most difficult for victims. They almost become re-victimized in the trial process, thinking that they finally were handed justice to whatever extent they can get justice at this point, and now it being ripped from underneath them is devastating.
What can prosecutors in Pennsylvania do from here?
You know, this is a pretty heavy blow for them. It doesn't give the hopeful opinion that there would be much they could do from here, but they can go to the United States Supreme Court and try to seek some sort of recourse there in appealing this decision. It's certainly not, they probably are not very optimistic about that, but it is an option from here on.
Really quickly, final question here. This whole thing was bounced out because they successfully made the case, Cosby and his team, that he was promised to come in and granted immunity, and then what he said was used against him. How common or uncommon is something like that here in Metro New Orleans? Really quickly, because we are running out of time.
That's not very common, I have to say. You rarely would see people granted immunity. It's very hard to get immunity given to anybody facing potential criminal charges, and it's even less likely that somebody would be granted immunity and then it would not be given to them, or it would be falsely given to them. So that's not very common. You do not see that very often. That is why I think the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled this way.
All right, we appreciate your time. Laura Canizero Rodriguez, former prosecutor, now with the law firm Rodriguez and Corey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And once again, just to recap, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has vacated the sexual assault convictions of legendary comedian Bill Cosby. This story continues right now on the WDSU app.
Also breaking from Slidell this afternoon, a judge denied the temporary restraining order filed in this ongoing casino debate. This ruling makes way for St. Tammany Parish leaders to vote tonight if they can move forward with building a casino in Slidell. Covington attorney Charles Branton filed a lawsuit to try and stop the vote. WDSU's Aubrey Killian will join us with a live report in our next half hour with the latest on this story. Now to a developing story from New York. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office is expected to charge the Trump Organization with tax-related crimes tomorrow. That's according to two representatives of the former president's company, one of which says the charges will be filed around 2 o'clock Eastern time. Law enforcement leaders did not confirm the timing of the charges, and right now it's still not clear if the company's chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, will be charged. The charges come in the middle of an investigation by Manhattan DA Cy Vance, who has been looking into several allegations of financial improprieties against former President Donald Trump's company. Last week, Trump's attorney called the impending charges, quote, completely outrageous, and said they were being pursued because Weisselberg did not cooperate with investigators. Stay with us here at WDSU, both online and on air tomorrow for the latest on this developing story. Let's get you down to Florida. Crews found 4 more bodies in the rubble of the condo collapse in Surfside. At least 16 people are dead. 147 others are unaccounted for, including a Kenner native. Rescue teams continue their work around the clock. This is now day 7 of the search for survivors, and leaders stress that is still very much the mission. We're going to have more on the Florida condo collapse coming up in our next half hour.
All right, let's shift gears. The time is 4:07. Let's talk about the weather. This is a live look outside. Believe it or not, it's really nice right now. That was not the case earlier this morning. Chief Meteorologist Margaret Orr live in the Weather Center. Margaret, it was absolutely storming downtown at about 9:30 today.
It absolutely was, but I have this just in. We now have potential tropical cyclone 5. That's because the system, which was 97L, is expected to become a tropical storm and then move across the Windward Islands by Friday. That's why it's been named potential, because it is expected to become a storm and they wanted to issue advisories for it. So here is a look at this system, and you can see forecast to move over the islands, then possibly the Dominican Republic and Cuba, both of which are mountainous, and then possibly into the southeast Gulf. That would be by Tuesday. So of course we're going to be keeping you posted on it. Not very organized just yet, but it is getting its act together. A little bit of dry air on the east side. Forecast models take it over the Dominican Republic and Cuba and then into the eastern Gulf. This HWRF is a very good model. We do have warm water here, but there is dry air in the Caribbean, also some strong winds. So I'll be keeping you posted and show you these forecast models. Plus, we're going to be looking into the weekend.
All right, Margaret, thank you. New today at 4, momentum is building for Louisiana lawmakers to hold an historic veto override session. Senate President Paige Cortez said today senators are likely to support the effort to try to overturn Governor John Bel Edwards' bill rejection on transgender athletes. You'll recall last week the governor denied a bill that would ban transgender athletes from taking part in school sports. House Republicans indicated they do have the support to hold the gathering. If so, it would be Louisiana's first veto session under the modern Constitution.
A $2 billion coastal restoration project continues to bitterly divide people in parts of South Louisiana. This morning at the Jefferson Parish Council meeting, supporters and opponents sparred over the future of the project. WDSU's Morgan Lentis is live on the riverfront with what both sides had to say. Morgan.
Hey, Travers. Yeah, so this debate really centers on the Mississippi River and the way it is eroding land downriver from where we are in parts of Plaquemines and Jefferson Parish. So this morning, several fishermen and even the lieutenant governor came to that council meeting to oppose this plan. They say the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Project will kill wildlife like dolphins, plus shrimp and oysters that many people rely on to make a living. Now, on the other side of the issue, a representative for the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority says this project will restore the river to its original state, something supporters say will rebuild land for years to come.
How about 100 years? The Mid-Barataria sediment diversion is about mimicking the natural process that created the state of Louisiana to begin with.
Can we afford this project? Acme Oyster House alone goes through 8 million oysters a year. There are 5 restaurants. 126,000 pounds of shrimp. That's just one restaurant chain. What about Drago's? What about Rouse's?
And it's important to note that the Jefferson Parish Council did not take any action today, instead calling this just a listening session. Coming up all new at 5, I'll have a timeline of when this project could potentially move forward. For now, reporting live in New Orleans, I'm Morgan Lentis, WDSU News.
All right, Morgan, thank you. Still to come, investigating the Capitol riots, the move the House just made to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th. Plus, one Saints player just signed a deal to become the highest paid right tackle in the NFL. We've got details on Ryan Ramczyk's new big money contract. And at 4:11, as we go to break, let's give you a live look at traffic on this Wednesday afternoon. You're watching WDSU News at 4. We'll be back.